Can you actually hear me here? Okay, I'm going to put this another way. Quiet! Right, that got everyone's attention. Fantastic. Just noting we're about to kick off, guys. Rightio, welcome to the August iteration of the Social Sustainability Committee. Fantastic to see you all today. Hope you're all well. I just want to make a quick note that Microsoft are having some issues, which means we are all having some issues. Not expecting it to be a problem today. Might be, I don't think we can access our emails at the moment, but it just might mean if we're putting things up, it might be a little bit slow today. Hopefully not. Just want to acknowledge Jackie back at the table. Good to see you. And Sophie, back from your overseas excursion. Awesome spreading the kiwi mahi over in Japan. So great to see you back in one piece though. Right, I guess we'll get into things. Also, welcome to all our guests up there today. Great to see our deputations coming up and looking forward to hearing your report backs as well. Rob, if I could ask you for the opening blessing, would be much appreciated, either in Te Reo Māori or English, as Thanks, you prefer.
Martin. Yep. My Te Reo isn't that flash at the moment, so we'll go in English. As we deliberate on the issues before us, we trust that we will reflect positively on the communities we serve. Let us all seek to be effective and just, so that with courage, vision and energy, we provide positive leadership in a spirit of harmony and compassion. Thank you.
That is awesome. Thank you very much, Rob. Also acknowledging Mike Moore on online there as well. Declarations number 3, apologies. I have apologies here from Sorka, who's overseas. Mike Moore's on Zoom. Kim's not on Zoom at the moment, but she may be shortly by the sound of things. Number 4, any declarations of interest relating to items on the agenda? Oh, sorry, I need to remove those apologies. If I could have those. Thank you, Lawrence. Have a seconder. Thank you, Kathy. All those in support? Aye, that's passed. Thank you. Number 4, declarations of interest in relating to items on the agenda. Are there any declarations of interest? Nope. Move on to 5, public speaking time. Do we have anyone in public speaking time? Okay, Mark. Do you have anyone for public speaking? No? Fantastic. So we are moving on to our deputations. We have 3 today. We have the Kapiti Coast Older Persons Council update, the Kapiti Disability Advisory Group update, and the Kapiti Health Advisory Group Program update, the mental health group. Today we're going to start off with 6.1 being the Older Persons Council. Kevin, if I could invite you up to the table, would be much appreciated. So look, I just will note this is a casual catch-up with regards to things, us getting updates from our should we say, other committees that we have. Great to have you here today and look forward to hearing from you. You had an Older Persons Council meeting yesterday, didn't you?
Yesterday afternoon, yeah. It was quite interesting, actually. So there's a resolution passed, which you have, Martin, about the Older Persons Park that's planned down at McLean's Park.
Yes.
There's a bit of concern, and we're really looking for an assurance that it is going to go ahead. Do you want me to read the resolution that was passed, or are you quite happy?
You guys did a resolution. You've given me a copy here as well. Did you want to generally talk about anything else? Because we can sort this out.
Just 2 slightly items after that.
Yep. Okay, well, look, we can sort this resolution if you like. Now, what the process is there will be a report back that will go to the Strategy and Operations Committee. So what we're doing is we're just going to have a nosy at this and pretty much we'll either endorse it or not as it passes through us so that we can follow it up with the Strategy and Operations Committee there as well. So the council officers has had a chance to put this up at all? Are you frantically typing away at the moment? Maybe if you don't mind, Kevin, to talk to your other items first, and the council officers
yeah,
just
sure,
the resolution first.
Quite the other items briefly. Just for your information, I've been asked to write a monthly column in the Kapiti News.
Cool.
And what I want to do in one of the first articles is write about the rate rebate and the hardship grant, that's coming up. People will be due for it. And I'm sure council will be thinking about how they advertise this. But I will be speaking to your media department, make sure we get the facts right, because I think it will be a problem if we say different things. We need to be saying the same story on that one.
You have a contact person for that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. The other issue, which was yesterday at the council meeting, we had a visit from a couple of the representatives from the youth council, which was great. And they want to do some intergenerational stuff with us. Yeah. And I think what they're looking at is they want to be writing some questions for us to answer, and we will work on them and answer them. I think it would be. I was really pleased to see them turn up, actually. But I think it would be good fun, actually. I'm looking forward to it. But it might be worthwhile, and I'll speak to staff about this. It might be worthwhile, actually. Council get their media people around on that. Actually, there might be some good photographs there.
Yep.
Really.
And look, maybe something to consider as well, Kevin, is the Youth Council also have a hui on a monthly basis. I'm sure they'd appreciate you popping in every now and again for a chat too.
Well, we're trying to do some intergenerational
Fantastic.
stuff on that, because that's part of one of the projects of the age-friendly reference group too, about intergenerational stuff, really. So we're trying to be working on that, but as I say, I was really pleased. I think that they want to do something which is fun and which is great, you know.
Yeah.
So that's about it, really, for us.
Fabulous.
Unless there's any questions.
Well, I was under the impression you had a bit of a larger turnout than normal yesterday as well.
Sorry?
You had a few extra members yesterday. It was a bit.
It wasn't tremendous, but we had, there were a couple of improvements, yeah.
Okay, and I might just check in with Kathy. Kathy, you got any comments you'd like to make since you were at the meeting yesterday?
No, Kevin's really covered it all, but it was great to see the young people there. I said they could ask the questions, but they might not like the answers.
Yeah.
But it's going to be great, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
And that was really, really good. Yeah, no, Kevin's covered the main issues, but it's good being on the Older Persons Council and, them having time here to bring issues to
Excellent.
this committee. So
And
it's
Kevin,
good.
could I ask, you guys, you yourself are building the relationship with John Hayes, who's chair of the reference group?
Well, I'm part of the reference group, yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
No, just making sure that linkage is there.
Yeah,
I think it's going to be important as we move forward.
Yeah. Probably the other thing, the other day I was on Access Radio talking about the Older Persons Council. And I did a recording, and it's been 10th of August it's been on. So if everybody here listened to it, it would probably double the audience of Access Radio. So.
Could I maybe ask if you could forward us the link to that?
Pardon?
There's a link. There should be a link to that broadcast. I'm picking somewhere. Yep.
Probably.
Cool. Okay, we'll make sure that we get a link to that. Get it up onto the council site there somehow, and we'll circulate it amongst the table as well. No, that sounds great.
You can listen to my dulcet tones.
Now, I just want to ask, does anyone have any questions for Kevin at all? Yeah, Halborough.
Through the chair, might I make a comment?
Sorry?
Might I make a comment?
You most
Is that
certainly are. Well, we can make a comment.
Yeah, I just want to thank you for the work that you're doing. It's great that the Older Persons Council is really humming along, and great that extra members are coming, and really excited about the intergenerational work. And so great that the Youth Council took the impetus on that and have come to approach you about that. I was just really looking forward to that, and I think getting some media around that is a fantastic idea.
Just not exactly sure when they are coming along. It'll probably be in the next school holidays. Yeah, because, obviously school can't come along during the school holidays to do that stuff.
Fantastic. And the Older Persons Park, I remember talking about that when I was the representative on the Older Persons Council some years ago. So that's an issue that's been floating around, and it's really important to our older people, because it keeps coming up, so we need to sort that. So I'm glad that you brought that here today.
So all we're really looking for is an assurance that it's in the plan and it's going to happen, and maybe a time frame around it.
My apologies, I missed that last bit. I was looking at the, what was that again? Oh, yep, definitely. Monique, I just wanted to see whether you as council officer involved with the Older Persons Council perhaps like to comment?
Regarding this one, there was some conversation about, I guess there's been some media interest recently about mini pubs, and that through the management plan there was an older person's recreation area or set aside through the management plan. And so there was just clarity sought from the Older Persons Council about just that space was being held. That was what the resolution was about.
Lovely, thank you very much. Okay, and just referring to what you're saying, Mayor Holborough, with our deputations, I think we're a little bit more casual, so if people do want to just comment rather than just ask a question, quite open to that as well. This is more about an interactive space. And Guy, my apologies, I didn't acknowledge you. You've been away for a bit, so I just want to say hi down there as well. Righto, well thanks Kevin. We've got the recommendation or resolution that the Older Persons Council's put forward. If we could perhaps have that up on the screen. It was just up there. It's coming? Fantastic. Okay, so read this out. Social Subcommittee receives a recommendation from the Older Persons Council. The Older Persons Council recommend to the Council to implement the McLean Park upgrade addition to create an older persons recreational area to provide opportunities for senior members of the community to meet up, improve fitness and to support intergenerational families who visit the park together. Any comment on that from the table at all? Kathy?
Do you want me to move? I would like to move that recommendation.
Okay, I'll take that signal. Thanks, Kathy.
And just say that this has been around for a very long time.
It has.
And I think that the Older Persons Council was getting concerned that it's going to fall through the gaps, and we need to make sure that it's implemented.
And I hear what you're saying, Kathy. It's part of the McLean Park plan as such. So the skate park is going in, the toilet block is in and looking fantastic down there. So I think it's just quite timely to actually be starting to get this nudged along as well from our perspective. So I'm sure this will result in a report back to this committee more than likely, but we'll get that ball rolling as such. Nigel?
Yeah, I apologise for not knowing the answer to this, but I'm not. What is an older person's recreation area, as opposed to say a middle-aged person's recreation area or a younger person's? So,
I think it would be it's a fair comment, Nigel. I don't think there's actually a set plan for it at the moment. Yeah. So I think it'll be more about the process of going through what that looks like in relation to working with older generation. Some parks I know have exercise equipment, some have tables that have maybe got games boards in them, but maybe there's some picnic tables there that have got good easy access in and out, so you can bring the grandkids along while you're watching them in the skate park or something along that sort of line. But I think what we'll find is that there isn't actually a prerequisited plan at the moment, and what we need to do is start putting that together. If I could maybe check in, Brendan, does that sound like a... Yeah?
Yeah, I think originally there were plans to put some exercise equipment on the site, and the team are working on options. There's a couple of issues. There's not a whole lot of green space left between the toilet and the skate park at the moment, so that's an issue, and so we want to look at keeping green space in that precinct for families that want to use the skate park or use the beach. So that's the challenge working through at the moment. And then just working through some of the latest research on that equipment. It's very expensive upfront and ongoing too. So, but there's other options. So there's a piece of work that the parks team are looking at the moment around what is the best use of that space. And so we can take away these words because there's nothing too specific up here, and look at options and come back to, I think the plan was come back to the community board as well, with some options, so we can do that.
No, that's cool.
Martin, may I just sort of, with, that was exactly one of the discussions we had yesterday at the Older Person Council, actually. But there are a few around the country, and as Martin said, the exercise equipment there. And some of them have like a chess game, the chess game, which actually is intergenerational, but nevertheless, the big chess game in the corner that you can move around. Not too sure that's worth it down there because of the wind type thing, but nevertheless, those are the sorts of things that they have in there.
Do you remember those clown things, Nigel? I was thinking we get one of those sort of shoot things and the older people can have a go at all the kids in the skate park. Or nerf them. Oh, heck, this is live. No, hang on. Okay, so I've made a slight alteration to the recommendation. If you note that receive and endorse. I didn't feel there was a need to say that we recommend doing something because the park is already in the plan as such. We're just asking for that piece of work to be implemented, if you like. So I think it's a great recommendation. Kathy, are you wanting to move this? Yes, I did, yeah. Could I have a seconder, please? Oh, sorry, look, I'm just going to do a hold up for that one at the moment. Lawrence, I missed you there. My apologies.
Thank you. Can I just, it's probably a question for staff, is this creating budget work that we haven't budgeted for financially?
The answer is yes. Yes. Yep.
Okay.
The older people can use the skate parks. Yeah, the skate parks for all ages, FYI.
Thank you for the question and the clarity there, Lawrence. Johnny.
Look, I just want to make a comment that, I'm pretty sure that the Paraparamati Community Board in its previous training, or maybe the one before, when the McLean Park was being sort of looking at redevelopment, were advocating for this anyway.
Sorry, Johnny, can I just ask you to speak into your microphone a bit better?
I'm just pretty sure that on the Paraparamati Community Board in the previous training, or maybe even the one before that, were advocating for this sort of stuff. I'm pretty sure we put a submission in when it came to the some of the maybe the long-term plan or something like that. Pretty sure we did something. Guy might be able to.
Yeah, look, I was under from my perspective, it's part of the McLean Park plan. It's always been in the plan. Guy, did you want to comment at all?
Yeah, no, we did do a submission and it went into the plan and it seems to have been shelved to one side. And I noticed the skate park has gone ahead with a renovation, but that wasn't really in the plan or long-term plan even. So it's a bit strange how it's been parked to one side for maybe nearly 7 or 8 years now. So I really think with Kevin, I agree with him. It needs some action now. Mm-hmm. It's not budgeted for, but many things aren't budgeted for, and work occurs. So yeah, get into gear and get things moving, please.
No troubles at all. Thank you, Guy. Any other comments?
Oh, thanks, Martin.
Yes, Rob, sorry.
If I could just make a comment. In the meantime, there's a brilliant pathway through the sand dunes there, starting from McLean Park, and that was built by the Paparam Rotary Club some 20 years ago. Graham Priest was the instigator there, and he passed away 2 months ago. But yeah, brilliant things to do there in the meantime, and cafes to visit. So
and look, I would note that the Gareth Elof's team is working on beach accesses as well. And Guy, I'm not too sure if you're aware, but they will be looking at that access way on the southern side of the Tuku stream. And there's going to be some platforms for viewing Kapiti Island, as well as pathway beautification, sort of like creation and that sort of thing there as well. So I dare say, in regards to our older community, we're looking at putting time into maintenance on less pathways, but upgrading them for better access. And I think tying into that could be actually something to consider. Even we've touted it for a specific area in the park, but maybe we actually might even be able to look at revisiting that and maybe tie that in a little bit to that area there, which is on the car around by that car park there as well, which would be good from a access perspective too. But I guess the idea is now we're pushing this. It's in the plan. I think we've actually got a pretty blank page and time to fill it in. And we can keep, as part of this committee, and I'm sure the community board, keep on top of its implementation as such. Yes, Kathy.
Just like to say, I understand there's no money in the budget for the older person's area, but in the past, we could look outside for sponsorship. And many years ago, our local builder actually sponsored the big skate ramp down at Paraparaumu Beach, and Mr. Reapin, he was a local builder here. So we could always look outside and find sponsorship for this gym equipment or whatever that we need down at the park. There are businesses out there who would have their name on it and sponsor these things, so it would hurry the process up. We wouldn't have to wait another year for funding or anything. So
well, look, it's funny you should bring that up, Kathy, and interesting that Rob brought up the path as well. An interesting development's been the Lions and the Rotary co-joining on a project with regards to Minipark that's being talked about at the moment, which I'm sure will come to this table at some stage soon. So maybe there's a conversation in that space as well, because I'm sure that they'd be very, very interested in assisting.
Yeah, well, I could
in this
talk to the
park as well.
community board about it, and perhaps the community board chair or community board. Well, I don't mind going out and knocking on doors, but
No, that sounds like a
there's
great.
probably sponsorship money out there for that.
More than likely is. And I think it's a great idea, Kathy. So, Kathy, we have you moving this motion. And Rob, all those in favour? Oh, hang on. Sorry, did you want to comment on it as such? Is it debate? No debate? Yes.
Yeah, I just want to highlight again that we're creating work for staff that there is no budget for with this. And I know for this year we're working really hard to keep our rates down when we come to annual plan for next year. So I just need to signal that we've got to look at this kind of thing and go, we're endorsing a recommendation that is recommending more work for council staff that isn't budgeted for, planned for. So whether that's the right thing to do is a question probably for the subcommittee to think about in terms of the fact that we've got this motion on the table.
Yes, I hear what you're saying, Lawrence. I'm actually going to push back a little bit on that one. And the reason I'm going to push back a little bit is because this is actually an implementation. This is not a new piece of work. This was part of the McLean Park plan. This has been talked about through the community board, definitely through the entire last triennium when I was on the community board as well. So, but I'm hopeful that we can actually potentially look for some alternative funding mechanisms as well, not necessarily ratepayer funded or a combination of both. Mayor Holbrook.
Yeah, I'd like to talk of that. This is in the park management plan, as I understand it. So all this is doing is saying, let's look at, see if there are opportunities to progress it or bring it forward, maybe reallocate budgets within the parks program. It's just saying it's the role of this subcommittee is advocacy as well as decision making.
Correct.
And we can look at the cost implications or the practicalities when it reaches council. So I'm comfortable that it goes through this stage.
Thank you very much, Mayor Holbrook. No more debate? Right of response? All those in favour? Aye. That's passed. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Kevin, and we'll see you in 6 weeks. Okay. Next off the rank is 6.2, Disability Advisory Group. Joanne, is it just yourself coming up today?
I assume that you have a copy of the minutes, but I'll just highlight what we had at our last meeting. We had some guests come along, and the first of those was from Te Awa Whetū Group, which is the new library in Waikanae, and they came and talked about the high level design that they were looking at, so they haven't actually got a plan, but what sort of things they were wanting to consider in the building of the new library, and we gave them some further ideas for thought around accessibility, and they were well received, and looking forward to them sort of coming back as that project progresses. Then we heard from REMO, which is the Wellington Regional Emergency Management Office, and they've developed a plan for disabled people in the event of an emergency, but it's not reliant on council and providers to all look after disabled people, but actually disabled people taking the initiative to do some planning for themselves, just like other members of the community would do. And that also was very well received and has given just the group somewhere to start. And she was also looking for other people who might come in and give feedback on the plan that they've sort of come up with. And that will just progress. They've got a workbook. They were looking for people to go on the cover of the workbook, and we'll just keep progressing that one. Then we've heard from Namanu, and there's probably two issues there that council should be aware of. One is that they have plans long term to upgrade the visitor centre, but that will be put on hold and the economic climate of the times and the difficulty in getting funds for that. But they did mention, and it is something that I would highlight to council, the difficulty of getting to Namanu if you don't take your car. The buses go there and turn around, but they don't actually go there to take people there. And that's something that council might want to consider if we're going to promote places like Namanu as a destination. That is something that you might want to consider somewhere, not the place of the Disability Advisory Group, but it just struck me that maybe the climate change people, if you want to encourage people to go to your destinations, you want to have public transport that actually goes there. We talked about things that they could do in the meantime, aside from the visitor centre, to improve accessibility for disabled people. And we're looking at going with some council staff and doing a bit of a field trip to look at maybe what the pinch points there are. So looking forward to that. And another area raised was around New Zealand Sign Language. We don't really see any New Zealand Sign Language in Kapiti except for New Zealand Sign Language Week. And so I've asked Kathy to bring a recommendation around council maybe exploring how council could promote New Zealand Sign Language beyond New Zealand Sign Language Week. And that might be, I don't know, having a New Zealand Sign Language video, for example, played in the library every so often. It could be using your electronic boards that the council might own. I just think the council should make the most of exploring the opportunities for that, given that it is one of our official languages. And so I will get Kathy to bring that motion perhaps now, if now's a good time.
Could I just check, was a motion put together at the actual committee itself?
No, it wasn't, and that was, we should have done that at the committee.
Yeah.
But I thought that council's working on.
I mean,
Sorry.
you're quite within your right to bring a motion to the table. That's not an issue at all. Halborough, you had a comment on that, obviously.
Yeah, I guess if there is an option to bring a motion to the table, but the other option is just to come along, do your deputation, highlight what's important, and we take note of it and take it away. Motions are usually backed by evidence and report and costings, as the Deputy Mayor just pointed out with the previous motion. The reason I supported that one is it's already backed up by a council plan. But bringing motions to a table with no report or no financial implications, and then trying to push that to a council committee for consideration, we keep running into that snag. And so I think we hear what people say. Staff are in the room, they're taking notes. Not everything has to be moved and seconded and put in concrete, because that puts staff in a difficult position, because that starts to instruct them to do pieces of work. And if we want to keep our rates to 7% next year, then we need to be very vigilant and very disciplined about how we go about making decisions about activities that council wants to undertake. Just wanted to put that on the table.
Well, I can appreciate that, and I dare say we're moving through a process of how our deputations work with regards to things. So do take on board what you're saying. It's a very, very valid point. And it's creating that pathway, and I guess that's the idea. That's why we have councillors on these committees to help bring these conversations. From our perspective, we would only be endorsing something like that. But on the same token, I do think there's a lot of leeway to note these things and then follow through with officers with regards to this to me looks like something that can go to the Commons Department and more than likely sit within there. And then Kathy, you could follow that through and report back to us maybe at the next meeting type scenario. And there's a couple of other points here as well, like the point you were just talking about with regards to Naimanu. That's something that maybe go to the economic development team with regards to their destination strategy, because that's a very, very valid point. And I think that just highlights the importance of us having these groups come to this table and also having you there so that we can capture those points and get a result, which I think is one of the processes that seems to be lacking a little bit in the past. You know, no disrespect to anybody, but we're trying to put some systems in place to capture these things, to push them through. As such, so thank you for the comments. As such, and we can even report back to that via the next disability group meeting on how that's being progressed. In other words, bounce it between here and there via Kathy following through on that as our delegate.
Yep. Thank you for that. Yeah, there isn't actually a process for us. We've never actually been given a reporting mechanism to raise these issues, so that's why we bring them to you. So we're happy if there is some sort of pathway. That'd be great. I would just respond to one thing, though, that you said about lack of reporting. In the long-term plan, not the recent one, the one before, I made a submission around the disability strategy, and that was approved by council but never progressed. So actually, that might have progressed. Had that been done, that might have come out of that. But I digress. But I just mentioned that as that could also have been a pathway. And the last thing we discussed was around the accessibility of digital communications coming out of council. Just highlight that sometimes that's an issue when visual images are posted, particularly around visions. Really nice detailed drawings, but no screen reader information, nothing to alert the blind or people with low vision as to what the image is. And usually the post itself is very high level, so it doesn't go into the detail that is in a picture. So just encourage staff, but also councillors, to be mindful of that. If you're putting out digital comms, you think about the people who are not going to be able to see that image and what you're talking about, and if you want that feedback from them, really encourage you to think about that. But we are meeting with the comms team and to just highlight that issue again with them.
I think, thank you for that, Joanne, and I think that highlights the point too. You're meeting with the comms team, and that starts to get that particular issue addressed, which is great.
And that's it from us.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Joanne. Two things I'd like to bring up. First one is very interesting about the Remo side of things, and maybe, Kevin, you might want to take note of that for the Older Persons Council. I don't know if Remo's been discussing. That might be something to discuss with our older community as well, having their own plans that are with regard to taking that responsibility, but putting something in place for themselves, especially our older community who perhaps have what am I thinking of here? Well, not too much disabilities, but just having motion issues. They just have difficulty getting around. Sorry? Mobility issues. That's the word I was looking for. Thank you very much, Lawrence. Appreciate that. The other one was, how's your membership going with regards to the disability group?
So it's going quite well, although the last meeting we were down on numbers because winter and there was quite a bit of sickness. Our numbers, we're also waiting on our terms of reference to be renewed since 2017, which has all been on hold because of the review of all the advisory groups. So it means that there's not a clear mandate, if you like, to say how many people should be on that group. So as that progresses, we hope that will be sort of solidified. Mm-hmm. And it is something that council staff have been looking at, in fact are actively looking at, and then we will be perhaps a bit more certain about how many people we should have, who should be on there, and what the role should actually be.
Fantastic. That sounds great. Does anyone at the table have any questions or comments for Joe at all? Nigel.
Yep. Hi, Joe. How do I do this? I've raised the same question around advocacy and the role of advocacy for various groups. So I raised the same thing about to the health group about issues that impact them and whether or not they feel comfortable or constrained by the relationship with council. And the reason I'm asking is the government recently decided to chop $56 million from disabled workers, topping them up to the minimum wage. So the government got rid of that. So people with particularly intellectual disabilities can now continue to be paid $2 an hour, and which I think is just horrifying, actually. So I wonder, does the disability group, do you have a view about that? And I don't necessarily need to know that, but if you do you feel constrained at all about publicly expressing that?
Personally, no, but having said that, I'm also the chair for Disabled Persons Assembly, and we actively, so that's a nationwide advocacy group for pan impairment types, and we actively do advocacy on that minimum wage exemption, and it is hugely challenging. The last government, we were finally thought we were going to get somewhere, but you know, things change and we have to change with it and find new ways of going around it. So we don't feel constrained by council. We find generally council staff are quite sympathetic and often understand the plight of disabled people, but there's little that council themselves can do. So we recognise that as well.
No, that's fine. Yep, it's cool.
I did. The other thing I would raise is I would encourage this committee, but also council as a whole, to think about how to improve accessibility at these meetings. I know that Kevin and I have struggled to hear sitting in the public area. There's no sound out there, so it's really a challenge to hear the comments going around. And I think, Jackie, you spoke at the last meeting I came to, but it took me 3/4 of the meeting to work out who was speaking and what you were speaking on. And by that stage, I couldn't actually remember what you actually said because I was so busy trying to decipher it. So I'm wondering what we can do to improve that and put the challenge out there for council to explore.
It's a very good point, actually. It's very difficult to hear back there. Yeah.
I think Anna's going to comment there as well.
Yes, sorry. We have recently found out that the speakers that are hardwired in at the back there are not working at all. So our IT department is investigating what they're actually connected to, and we'll get some sound going on back there.
I'll be very interested to see the invoice that came in, what the work that was done covered. You're going crazy. Look, I'm sorry, Joe. There was we just got Jackie here as well, so apologies for that. Jackie.
Marina Joe, I'm sorry I can't help and enlighten you as to what I was speaking about at the last meeting. I don't have a clue. But you did mention a mobility strategy that you had submitted as part of your submission previously to council. Is that something that you feel could be progressed through a council policy and adopted? I just wanted to know a little bit more about that mobility strategy.
It wasn't actually a mobility strategy, it was a disability strategy, and I'm not sure where that lies now. I know that it was approved, and that's it. I did get a question asked if I was happy to use some disability advisory group funding towards it, and again, didn't hear anything because the turnover at council was quite high and the person left. So I'm not sure where that is at the moment, and new staff have come in the time to get used to the role and figure out where things are. So I'm not expecting that to be quickly resolved, but also being part of the long-term plan, I'm not sure if it was a you know, 5 year, 6 year, 7 year, you know, I don't know where it came, but that feedback wasn't given, and actually that would be another useful bit of information for council to take on board, that when you tell people their submissions have been approved and got through, it would be good to have a bit of a time frame on that so that they know, oh, okay, it's been approved and it'll probably be a 5-year plan or it'll be in the 10-year plan, but I have no idea because all I received was an acknowledgement that it had been approved by council.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, very useful. We do have staff here, and I'm sure this will get back to the policy team and they can look for it and give you an update. Thank you.
Sorry, Joe, haven't quite finished yet. Monique.
Just a note on that we do have it in the program, but it's yes, definitely resourcing, and we are looking at that through an approach similar to the other approaches that we're delivering. But it's a matter of when we can deliver that, I guess, through the resourcing. I just wanted to note as well a comment that we are also looking at the hybrid meeting style as well, just to increase the accessibility. So listening to our groups about how to run our meetings to improve accessibility, but particularly for participation for people with disabilities from home. So just letting you know that we've been responsive to that, and that might mean that we change the way that we deliver our advisory group online.
Fantastic. And look, I'm going to go on a little bit of a limb here, but I think it's a fair comment to say that we're seeing a lot of the stuff getting tightened up in this trinium with regards to how our subgroups work, how our committees work, and how we can pull this information through and follow through on it. And good systems I'm seeing are getting put in place in regards to that. Won't make comment on issues on the past, but good to, from my perspective, that's part of the reason why you're sitting in that chair right now, Joe, so that we can capture the stuff and report back the way that we're meant to be as well. So really appreciate everyone in the room that are coming in with regards to following through on the kaupapa that you represent. Thanks, Joe. That's awesome. Oh, hang on. sorry, Joe, backwards and forwards like a yo-yo there. I missed Chris Pavan over here.
Thank you. I just wanted to note that we will be coming back with the policy work program just to work through the priorities that will be progressing. It'll be over the next year, but also the next 3 years, just so we can see where everything is layered. And I think just to lean into Monique's comments about making sure that we're obviously operating within the budget that we've set through the LTP, but also how much we can do. And we haven't lost sight of you or of the importance of making sure that we're covering key topics. We're also looking at where some of these things fit. So I know Monique's mentioned the idea of the approach and where that sits in our framework, which is really high. In a similar way to the age-friendly strategy, which turned into an approach, so that it sort of informs everything we do. So we will be coming back to talk more about that with you, and our committees and council will be able to determine the priority for progressing our next suite of tools. So I just want to make sure we've said that to you. So nice joined up feel to that, and definitely have you on our list. So thank you.
Right, Joe, I think that's it. That's awesome. Thank you so much, Joe. Radio, moving on to 6.3, Kapiti Health Advisory Group Program Update. Presenting today is Sandra, which I'm sure will give a general update, and we have Graham and Claire in here as well. This is one of our subgroups. I just wanted to note we'll have the housing one coming up soon, if council officers need to be made aware of that at all. Housing report, sorry.
Yep, and that's. Thank you.
All settled in over there, guys? Fantastic. It's a pleasure to see you here today. As I've noted before, we have 5 subgroups with the Kapiti Health Advisory Group. You might notice I'm not using the acronym because we're going to do some work on that. And this one is going to be having the mental mental health group as such, and I look forward to your update.
Great. Thank you.
And we've got that on the screen here as well, is that correct?
We
Yeah.
did have.
I'm just going to say is thank you very much for taking the time to put the presentation together. Much appreciated. That has been shared on Hub.
Oh, good. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. And I'd like to introduce the members of our mental health group, Dr. Graham Scott and Claire Hines. So they'll be talking about what the mental health working group's up to at present too. And I'll give a quick overview of the other groups and what we're doing as a whole. Is it this one? Thanks. So we'll give an update on the overall, and then the mental health group will talk to us. So overall, we've had a look at as well as the work of the working groups, we'll have a look at the overall health sector and what's happening in that space. Last meeting, we had a presentation from an organisation called CardioScan on some groundbreaking technology that will mean that serious cardio cases don't need to be treated in Wellington. They can be treated from locally, and we're really pleased to see more things like that. It's just a case of how we encourage that use to be taken up a bit more widely. So that was really useful, and we're looking at it in general. How do we move from that, ambulance at the bottom of the cliff to fence at the top work, and what can be done in our community in that regard? We did also have planned a talk by Remo next meeting on medical care in a disaster, but unfortunately Renee is unwell herself, so that's going to have to wait. And as you suggested last time, you don't like our KHAG acronym, and so we're looking at a name change, and any ideas are greatly welcomed. We've been through it before and we're a bit stumped, but we would like a better idea than the current one, which apparently is unfriendly and not great. But we also need to promote the work a bit more, so we're going to be working with your comms team as to how we work as the health strategy is unravelled and how we build into that. So that'll be coming up. So the various working groups, access to services, the first draft of our compelling case has been written and it's been discussed, and it's actually shaping up really well. We've got a few data gaps to fill in, and we're currently using the OIA for those things that we haven't been able to get. Unfortunately, I suspect it's a resourcing issue in the health sector, but we just have not been able to get the kind of information we've been used to getting. So getting 2023-24 data is really important. We are developing a program on how we start to roll that out and talk to relevant groups and people and gain support. And one of the things we do note is that things like the ongoing issues with Dunedin Hospital and Nelson Hospital and others make the sort of thing we're talking about, which is a smaller and less complex build, more attractive. So we're hoping that timing for us is going to be about right. And we start our rolling out, we're meeting with Tim Costley on the 19th of August, and that will be the first time we sort of mention it in the political area. Our population health group is really busy. They have a great team on their working party, and we're very pleased to welcome Mandy Savage from the Cancer Society to that group. They're pursuing a whole range of issues relating to smoking, vaping, alcohol and food, and they're considering how to best support implementation of the KCDC health strategy. And they're also keen on encouraging promotion of vaccinations, particularly measles, which moves into that prevention rather than treatment side of health. Measles, flu, COVID, HPV and hepatitis B. And they're also seeking information from other councils around the area and their own professional contacts in population and public health as to what is being done at present and how they can best provide input to the council here. But it is a great group with lots of good work going on. The transport group who spoke to you time before last, both ASK and the Kapiti Shuttle and the Kapiti Couriers have had much reduced passenger numbers in the last month or two. And sadly, we think that's because outpatient numbers are down with restrictions at all of the hospitals and clinics. So it's while it's useful for them that they're not having to take so many people, it's actually really concerning that so few people are going into to outpatient clinics. The Ask shuttle actually needs upgrading, and they're having some funding issues with that. So they're seeking ways of funding their replacement shuttle. Last time the Lion Foundation supported them, but they haven't had that support this time. And also their contract with Health New Zealand expires in June next year, and there's just no indications at all that they'll have another term. So it's a bit of a chicken and egg situation there, that they can't really go out seeking additional funding if they don't know if they're going to have a contract next year. Kapiti Carers, you'll recall Diana spoke about their quest for new drivers. They've had a fairly limited response to that, but we'll continue to work with KCDC to watch for Wellington Regional Council consultation in this area. And the children and young people, they are talking to you next time, but the responses to their questionnaires are coming in, and there's pictures emerging of quite, overall, not too bad, but pockets of deprivation and issues of considerable concern with children throughout our community. But I guess I'm not telling you anything you don't know. Further work is being completed, and that will come to the next meeting. And also it's anticipated that a number of actions will be identified that align again with the health strategy. So they're very, they're doing some really interesting work as well. So I'll hand over to Graham and Claire to talk about the work they're doing. Graham.
Excuse me, I might just hold there for a second.
Sure.
Fantastic report, thank you very much. Bit of information there, but just while it's fresh in everyone's mind, I thought maybe ask some questions, if there are any questions about that, and then we'll move on to your report so that they can focus on that. Just so you're aware, if everyone's looking at their screens, your presentation is on our hub, so a lot of people will be watching it on here rather than on the screen, so I'm sure they are paying attention. I know it can be a little bit disconcerting when you're looking this way that people might not be, but I've got it here on my screen as well. I'm assuming the others have as well. That came through on the minutes. So first of all, any questions at all? Lawrence.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Sandra. Just a question around the contract asks one. Is that related to the transport?
Yes. Sorry, I should have been more clear. Their transport contract runs out in June next year,
Okay.
and there's no indication they'll get any more.
Great. Okay, thank you.
And just building on that a little bit as well, Sandra, so they're funded to supply that service, are they? Is that what you're saying?
They get some funding which we work with them to achieve from, it was originally from CCDHB and it's been rolled over into Health New Zealand. But like all contracts in that area, they have no indication at all as to whether they'll get an ongoing contract. And for them seeking funding without that for their upgrade of their shuttle is quite worrying.
So would I dare say some advocacy is required in that space?
Yeah, I think that's going to be something we'll ask soon.
Chris, do you want to comment on that? Sorry, Melborough, I'll get to you next.
Sorry. Yes, I will say I just wanted to add a bit of new news because I think it's relevant. Minister Reti has just released some changes to Health New Zealand, which I think will be beneficial in terms of supporting a conversation with Central, I'll say Health New Zealand rather, DHB, that the current Deputy Director General Clinical Community and Mental Health at the Ministry of Health, Robin Shearer, has been appointed as the Central Deputy Chief Executive. So I think there will be an opportunity for us to touch base with Robin to see if we can have a bit of a chat about some of those challenges and how we might work together on that. So I think that shift would be seen as a very positive opportunity because I think we have a few, they might seem small, but they're actually significant issues here that I think we'd be looking for some help. And I think the benefit of now having one regional, so that's our one, irrelevant of whether it was Kapiti Coast Health or Mid-Central, we've now got one region that we can have a chat to. So I think we'd be looking to see if Robin can help us with that. So that's quite a significant step forward.
Fantastic. Very good to hear. Thanks, Chris.
That's great. Thanks, Chris. Janet Holborough. Ah, sorry, Mia Holborough. My apologies.
Yeah, no problem.
I was looking at the name.
No problem, Mr. Chair. I just further to Martin's comments before. I'm taking notes on my iPad, not checking my emails. Just reassuring you. So I just wanted to ask a little bit more about the data that you're collecting on children and young people. How are you going about obtaining that data, and where have you got to? Just a little bit more. I know you've got further work to do, but just a little more detail around that, please, if that's right.
The Children and Young People's Group put together a very brief questionnaire just that they sent out to all of the groups around Kapiti that are working with children, including groups like Bernardo's, Plunkett, Birthright, Women's Centre. They've probably spoken to about 15 groups around the community just to get a feel for what are the actual concerns that those groups have, and is there anything we can see that can be done to help. So they are pulling that report together. They're still talking with people at present, but they will bring that report to you next time. In terms of actual data, that gets caught up largely within the work that we're doing for the compelling case. So we don't at this stage have a breakdown of how much of that is paediatric outpatients, for example, or how many children have gone to emergency departments, that sort of thing. But hopefully we can get that kind of granularity over time.
Yeah, in the meantime, that qualitative information is still really useful. So that sounds like a fantastic piece of work that's going on there. So look forward to hearing more. Thank you.
Yeah, and they are backing it up where they can with actual stories of people's experiences. So that's going to be, I think, a valuable part of the case.
Great, thank you.
Jackie.
Thank you. I'll ask about that report as well. I'm representing the Otaki Community Board here today, and I was wondering if 15 groups, whether or not they're also inquiring about and getting information about the children or the youth in Otaki.
We have approached groups where we've had the ability to contact them. Otaki has been, as you all know, a bit of an issue because they've been mid-central and they've seen themselves as a wee bit separate from us. But we would love to make contact with the community board and with people like Shelley Warwick, who's also the ward councillor and does usually come to our meetings, but just to start to get a feeling for that kind of information. So thank you for raising it.
Yeah, no, thank you very much. So I'd be really keen to touch base with you, and we'll start work on this now within the kaupapa that we're doing with community safety, and it's a very holistic kaupapa, housing and health and everything make us community safe, so thank you.
Could I ask Chris if you'd like to comment on that as well, please?
Thank you. Just a note, obviously we are working alongside you and supporting, I will say KHAG while we land a name, and we are also looking at engagement and support in Otaki, acknowledging that system and looking at how they might connect up together. So we will be coming back, and we're supporting some conversations, so that is happening. Totally linked to the work you've just raised, Jackie. So as we evolve that, we'll be able to come back and share that with this table and more formally.
Lovely, thank you. Nigel.
Yeah, thanks for the updates there. Again, my questions, it's around the advocacy, and I mentioned it earlier, and just there's been, through our long-term plan, one of the things that happened is we had increasing calls on council funds to service organisations that were previously being serviced at a national level. And just recently, we had Mandy Savage come in a number of times and speak to us, really compelling argument about why we should be cutting down on cigarettes, and the government have decided to give a $216 million tax cut to the tobacco industry. It's very generous of them. But apart from that, also they cut a counselling service for girls who have been through domestic violence, and at the same time they cut support for parents and new babies. Now, I personally find that appalling, and I can say so. But I wonder about our health groups, and because the people who are affected by these cuts are part of our community, and again it comes back to, does KHAG feel, or whatever name it ends up with, do you feel in any way constrained about having a public view as an organisation as opposed to individuals?
You're raising a very good point. At this stage, because we are just starting to set up processes and such things of what we're doing, and because the health strategy is coming down the track as well, we want to make sure that we don't step out of line with that. So we're meeting in the next little while with your comms group so that we can start to do that. But certainly we hear the sort of things you're talking about as well, and we are concerned. It's just there are obviously pros and cons of coming out with a public statement, but I think some of the straight out health things we can certainly make comments on once we align with your strategy.
I don't want to in any way make the group feel uncomfortable or feel like you're being remiss for not speaking out. It's just, I just wanted to see how that process was and if you're comfortable with it. But that's cool. Yeah.
I think it's a fair comment, Nigel, to say it's an evolving and that sort of stuff. I'm super impressed with the way the group's coming with regards to all things starting to work, but we're still have to do a little bit more work, shall we say, with regards to the bringing together, landing the group so that we move into a strong position on that advocacy space. And I know through the work that Chris and her team are doing, we're actually lining ourselves up with regards to who to talk to. There's been obviously that process of waiting till the government settles down, and I mean, they must throw a dart at regards to things that are being chopped that one would question the reasoning behind it, to be honest, as such. And I guess we've also got a responsibility as councillors in that space as well, and we need to see how that ties into the group. And I know you've got the meeting coming up with Tim Costley. That's obviously a good place to start with regards to key points that we might want to bring up with him as well with regards to what his government is doing, or our government is doing. And it's, again, this is part of the report back, so that, we're starting to flesh this stuff out. Actually, sorry, there was a couple of things. Anyone else? A couple of things I just wanted to touch on. Cardio scan. I was here for that presentation. That was very interesting and awesome, to say the least. And I think that's something that's from a flag. I think that's something we need to follow through on with regards to more information. And I'll be having a chat to Chris and Gina about that. The compelling case, we had an update on that. Just want to check that's still on track for, with that sort of on track to be sort of in place before the end of the year. Is that correct?
Absolutely. We have the children and young people's group talking to you next time, but the time after that, we're hoping that the compelling case is going to be able to come. So, two more meetings.
Oh, look, it's coming along exceedingly well. And, it's on target. And the briefing you gave us, you gave our little group the other week, absolutely fantastic. And the shuttle's been touched on as well. I do perhaps think of the children and young people. We might have been thinking whether there's a linkage to the youth council or something along that sort of line, but it's a different pathway of information that you're talking about, which is you talking about the youth like that sort of triggered it with me as well. Was going to ask whether there was a linkage to the youth council as such, but I think that piece of work you're doing is a bit different than that linkage as such, and I'm sure that you'll tie into them when that's appropriate.
Councillor Sophie was very kind and introduced us to a couple of members of the Youth Council, one of whom is on that working party and is bringing the views of young people forward to that. So we're quite lucky.
Absolutely fantastic. Thank you for facilitating that, Councillor Hanford. Much appreciated. That's great. Thank you very much. Look forward to the next stage of the presentation.
Thank you, councillors, for this opportunity to summarise for you what the mental health group in KHAG has been doing. I should add that it's only been going for a matter of months, so there's a lot of work ahead of us, but quite a lot behind us as well. What I thought I'd do in the few minutes available is give you a quick update on what do we have around here for mental health services for young people. I should add, and it should be obvious to you, that amongst the broad spread of issues that mental health involves, we've decided to focus, in my case, on youth mental health and Claire and dementia. So talking about youth mental health, I just want to discuss briefly what services are available, what's the current situation with them, and then put in front of you a few thoughts about what a community health program looks like, which seems to me to be the way to bridge what a local government such as yourselves can do and what the formal process of delivering mental health services is. And I think the key to that is the concept of a community mental health program and what that might look like. So I've offered some thoughts there, and then we'll finish off with where our current intentions are taking us. Well, what services do we have around here? I've done a piece of work which just assumes that national norms apply to the population of your district, and if that were true, and obviously it's not entirely true, there'd be 3,000 young people around here living with various kinds of mental illness. And by way of services to support these people, we've got GPs who typically make referrals into other services, but do some services of their own. There's the Child and Adolescent Mental Health Services, or CAMS as it's known for short, which deals with people up to the age of 18 at the Kapiti Health Centre, and we've had extensive interviews with them, which I'll note in a few minutes. Then there's the rather unique Kapiti Youth Support, which has 5,000 people enrolled in it. And a statistic I saw recently, which I'm still struggling to believe, that 2/3 of the young people who live around here are enrolled with it one way or another. But that statistic came out of the network that Sandra is involved with. 28% of these young people are Māori. It also includes, though, the Kapiti Youth Support deals with education issues, housing issues, and general health issues for the people that go there. So it's not all about mental health. You might wonder why we have this rather unique service in this area, and it goes back to the 1990s when the Central Regional Health Authority, which I should note I was chairman of, funded the idea of a one-stop shop for young people, and it took off and has flourished ever since, and is being seen by, I'm told, the Minister of Mental Health, Matt Ducey, as being a model that he'd like to see run in other parts of the country, but it is rather unique to this district. And finally, there are the school counsellors, and we've interviewed some of those because they're where the problem rests. And I'll come back to that. And then, of course, there's the acute services through secondary care, which is just issues of access, really, from our point of view, seeing we don't have that expertise in acute mental health care. Well, what's the current situation there? You can see in that slide that it is very unsatisfactory. That when somebody is referred into CAMS, they get a triage and will identify, some of them will be sent back to their GPs, but a lot will be sent on to the Kapiti Health Centre, and many to referrals to other services. But the problem is that all these other services are choked up with queues, and so you can wait for 6 months getting the service that the triage said that you needed. And of course what that means is that these young people are still in school, and the counsellors report that these young people deteriorate while they're waiting in the queue to get the services, but they still come to school every day, so the counsellors have to deal with whatever they have to deal with, even if these young people are suicidal. And you'll see what I find a pretty shocking observation in that list that to be sure of getting treatment for being a suicidal young person, you need to have tried it and be discharged from the hospital. And so there are young people showing suicidal tendencies who are not getting into those services as a matter of urgency because they haven't actually tried to kill themselves yet. I've mentioned the private counsellors briefly. There are a collection of them out there, but many counsellors won't work with young people because the methods that they're trained to use with adults, frankly, don't work with younger people. And they can cost between $90 and $140 an hour, and so a lot of people can't afford these services. It was most unfortunate that we had a very highly qualified psychiatrist from the health centre, Marie Bismarck by name, who quit recently and was interviewed and said she was leaving because of astonishing levels of stress and remembering that people in that job are commonly having to deal with risks to their lives from people with serious mental illness. And she quit and was obviously very highly qualified because she's gone back to Melbourne to be a professor of teaching of psychiatry. And we were told when we interviewed the centre up there by Ewa Strickland, who's the other person working up there, that they're way short of staff, I mean seriously short of staff, to be able to deal with the load coming in. And he also says that a lot of people are referred to them who shouldn't be, because a very common ailment for young people is anxiety. And there's a lot of ways of treating anxiety in young people short of putting them into what's essentially a national health service. So it's not a very good situation, and it's particularly difficult for those school counsellors who are dealing with these young people. Well, what might a solution to all of this that would be of relevance to the work that this council does, because you're not providers of mental health services? So I've done a lot of research looking internationally about what a community health service actually is. And I've highlighted in the next slide characteristics that I've seen in common over a couple of dozen of these things that I've researched. Essentially, it starts off with the fact that I'm quoting there from an organisation called Toitu, which is an Auckland-based think tank around the Auckland Medical School. And I quoted their headline there that young people's mental health is influenced by many factors that begin before birth and continue through childhood and adolescence. So there's a lot that influences mental health outcomes that has nothing to do with mental health services, and that's where I think the council can look for places where it might exert some leverage. And there are many models to consider, and I've noted there some of the key features of it. Mostly they're about making the community more acceptable and amenable to people with mental illness, to deal with stigmatization, which is a problem for people with mental illness, although less than it used to be. It's about reaching out to people and ensuring that they're engaged with community groups and services who provide them with safe places to talk about their issues with other people and to have access to suitable services, which are very different from a 15-minute consultation with a GP, which is what happens otherwise. And focusing on the long term and in a holistic way about what's actually going on for these people, because somebody might show up in the system with a high anxiety and incipient bipolar disorder, but the real problem that's triggered them right now is that they've lost a job and don't have a place to live. And so it has to be thought about in a more holistic way, which of course is what a community mental health program tries to do. Now, I won't go through the details of the next slides, but you've got it. I searched for a model which seemed to me to be mainstream, typical of what these things are, and very articulate about, well, what exactly is it? And it comes from the state of New Hampshire in the US, and you can see for yourselves what it's about. But that's one sort of vision of these things which I think is worth some attention. So let me finish with, well, what are we doing going forward in the coming months about all of this? Well, firstly, I've spent nearly 3 months now trying to jump all the hurdles to get access to the government's so-called IDI, which is the repository of all the central government's administrative data, which is anonymised but does link individuals together so that, subject to a whole lot of privacy controls, it is possible to start getting statistical relationships between somebody who touches the system for services for mental health and whatever else is going on in their lives, which can be seen from the other government services they've had. So you can see whether there's a history of abuse or of other illnesses or of poverty or of being involved with the police and all sorts of other things that people do in their families. Now, I should emphasise that this is entirely intended to be research and anonymised. It is not about identifying people for services. It's about doing research into what are the tendencies amongst this class of people that is of interest to people trying to provide them with services. We haven't done a lot of engagement yet with people who are living with mental illness, but it seems to me important to do that, and the philosophy ought to be about doing what we can to increase their influence on these things rather than standing in some sense in a relation to them that implies some expertise on our part. In other words, we're going to try and wire things together rather than put ourselves in a position of authority or of any kind. Also, it's important for us to link this with the Council's emerging health strategy, and we'll continue to do that. So far so good, but there's quite a lot of talking yet to be done about what work program we're onto and how that fits with what's in the strategy. This could result in recommendations to the government, and we considered what we might do as a result of the resignation of the psychiatrist, but decided that just writing to the minister saying this is a bad thing, do something about it, was going to have zero impact. So we're better off to do our research to make the case that if it turns out to be true that this district is underserved by comparison with reasonable norms from around the country, and identify things that are particularly good in this area, which people ought to be thinking about doing elsewhere and forming partnerships. I know there are other local governments around the country who are interested in what Kapiti is doing in the area of health and would like to be involved with us as it matures. And finally, to offer assistance to the local organisations around here to increase their capability to apply for the government for funding. And specifically what I mean by that, and considering that the Kapiti Youth Support is dealing with 2/3 of the people around here, they're in this demographic, they're an obvious candidate. And so we've been talking to them about how they might use 30 years of data they've got on people who they've worked with, and bring that into a state that might make them amenable to fitting in with the present government's aspirations for what they call social investment, which is about new forms of funding for community organisations who take this sort of holistic view of the people they work with. So, look, that's all from me, and thank you very much for your attention.
I'm just going to hold there for, I think, thank you very much, Graham. Look, something that's been brought to my attention is that obviously mental health is a very delicate subject, and next time we have a presentation, I would ask the room if there's anyone that's uncomfortable in that situation, if they wanted to leave, that would be absolutely fine, and we might flag that as well. Chris, I'm just going to go to you first with regards to a comment around that, and Graham, thank you very much for the research that's been done so far. Very, very, very sobering. And I'm just exceedingly thankful that we've got this group here, and that you're doing the work that you are. There's not going to be a short-term fix here, but the thing is we're on a pathway to some resolution, whatever that looks like, and it will be ongoing. This is not something, and I'll be the first one to put my hand up. With regards to mental illness, with regards to my background as well, happy to have a conversation with that, but I'm certainly a person that can put my hand up and help in that space from my own personal experience as well. Chris.
Great, thank you. I'm just going to lean into that point and say we are very lucky to have Graham and Claire and the team working on this. And although the statistics and gaps and challenges that you've heard from today are extremely sobering, it is reflective, I think, of challenge across New Zealand. And it's great that we're going to be looking to benchmark the degree to which we are served here for the need in our community. I just wanted to say that shining the light and having information like this on the table is really important, because sometimes without sort of digging underneath the layer, everybody thinks that Kapiti doesn't have issues or challenges, and so I think this is a really beneficial starting point to that. And the point I think you might be making, Martin, our chair, is that lived experience is a really important part of this as well. And so I think obviously at the moment we were just trying to understand the foundation really, but I think that would be part of next steps as well, is that how do we bring some lived experience into this conversation as well. So great point. What I put my hand up for though was just the reference to the IDI. If you happen to be at the Otaki Safety and I'll say Thriving Communities Symposium yesterday, you would have heard us raise the point about the IDI. And I just wanted to share that
Sorry, Chris. Just clarity, IDI?
Oh, sorry. I thought Graham had described that quite nicely. It's a...
that I mentioned.
Yeah, so Statistics New Zealand holds it, and essentially central government agencies feed their data, raw data into it, and you can access it to use for specific purposes such as research, and effectively you anonymise the data so you can see trends and understand what's happening in an area. Sometimes you can look perhaps a Kapiti, nationally, regionally, whatever you want to. But what I wanted to share was that we are working with the Public Service Commission at the moment to see if they can help us get better access to the data that is in the IDI, so that nice big data set. But they're also looking at some of the work that the social investment agency's undertaking to see if they might be able to share with us data at a Kapiti level. So so that just actually happened last night. So I thought I'd just add to the conversation to say, again, we're working alongside KHAG, and we are also looking at parts of central government at a working level as to how we can support there being better information for us to be able to lean into a number of areas. So we will also be supporting Graham and Claire and our KHAG colleagues to be able to access that information as well. So I just wanted to note that.
Thanks, Chris. And I also, just on that note too, I just wanted to acknowledge that safety symposium up in Otaki last night. That was absolutely fantastic. And also, Jackie acknowledged the Otaki Community Board with regards to their participation in that, but also all the council officers and councillors that were up there as well. But also the agencies you're getting into that space. You know, there's some real progress starting to form there with regards to relationships, etc. But it really comes back to what you're talking about, Jackie, with regards to health up that way and how we bring that in. We've got to do it a bit subtly. We've got to do it carefully. But I'm quite happy that the way we're doing it is working as such. Not there yet, but we're getting there as such. Lawrence.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Graham, for the work in here. I'm interested in some of the stuff around the youth. And just a question, are you aware of Rotary's fund that they have available for supporting young people into counselling?
Yes, I am.
Okay, great. I was just referencing the costs associated and the barrier that is for that. I note from talking to Rotary that is undersubscribed. They're finding it actually difficult to distribute the money. So, so just to highlight that as something just to be aware of in your work, that there are funds available to be accessed to support young people into that. Admittedly, we are at capacity across our counselling services, I know that. I know from Paraparaumu College's perspective, our guidance counselling team is fully under the pump, and the college board has invested its own funds into supporting increase of capacity there to support our young people. So you're right that it does stop with schools at the moment to carry the load that health isn't picking up. Yeah.
Thank you, Lawrence. Nigel.
Yeah, just again, thank you very much for doing this work, which must feel very difficult at times, and you feel like you're pushing it uphill. I mean, I don't want to appear to be anti-government, but I am very much anti-stupidity, and we see the consequences of these policies all the time. I think what's important about the research work that you're doing, and why it's really important, because at some stage, because I'm naturally optimistic, at some stage we will return to sanity, and it's going to be really important to know what it is that we need to apply funds to. I'm also, I had a chat with Marie Bismarck. Her situation was just, well, you all heard the story about, they wouldn't even give her a safety button, like, it was just insane, right? Because the business case didn't stack up. So, but I'm also hearing from GPs that, GPs are, so the people, like Lawrence was saying about, there are funds available in various places, but you can't get the counsellors and you can't get the GPs because they're too stressed, and so they go somewhere else. Australia's a wonderful place to go if you're a GP, right? You get paid a lot more. Patient ratios are much different. Same with our teachers, etc. So, just there isn't any question here. Just to say, good on you for doing what you're doing, and please keep doing it. It must be, I would be going bananas if it was me, but fantastic.
Yeah, to tuku that.
Well, thanks, Martin. Yeah, no, thanks, Graham, for your input there, and keep it up. Yes, I've been involved a bit with Capita Youth Support over the years too, and they developed a model some 10 years ago, which was cutting edge, and the government at the time looked at it. So they seem to be going from strength to strength. Take my hat off to them. We, at the collaborative meeting at Old Taki yesterday, it was really valuable. I think the holistic approach too, they looked at the context of the community with regard to the problems which were housing, health, network connectivity, and jobs. So, it's really a case of looking at the grassroots problems of the community and working on those at the same time, give the youth security of their environment. So if we look at the overall picture, as well as dealing with the health problems in the immediate vicinity, that'd be really good. And I think the council's in the front seat for looking at the community, because it takes a community to raise a child. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob. Johnny.
Yeah, look, I guess I have a question here just regarding the iData. I mean, I'm just wondering how the situation's got so bad, because surely the ministry would have had that data themselves and been able to see where it was trending. So I guess my question is on that. And the other thing is, I know we've lost our psychiatrist here due to the button and stuff like that. I guess there has been some changes made with the ministry now, with trying to reduce the 14 layers of management do you think that's going to there's going to be some improvements coming forward?
Somebody knows I was once chairman of the Health Funding Authority. Yeah, look, the IDI, it's an underused resource, and it's long overdue for an upgrade. It was cobbled together as an initiative when Sir Bill English was the Minister of Finance, and he noticed, particularly from the Ministry of Social Development, that there were some individuals whose names weren't known, but you could see it in the data that there were individuals without names who were incurring enormous costs. Like there was one group of, I think it was 2,000 young people who had been notified to SIFs for mostly living in abusive homes, who you could use this data and calculate that over the course of their lives, this sample of children was going to cost the taxpayers $750 million. And so it made a very obvious point that everybody had known, that you should invest early and end up spending a lot less than you will down the track. But more importantly, the individual involved has a much better life than they would otherwise have had. So you win on both dimensions. And in order to cobble this together, they created the IDI. It's controlled by the Stats New Zealand, and the rules for getting into it are very, very elaborate. You've got to jump all these hurdles to get in. Now, the reason for that, though, in fairness to the people that did it, was that there was such a concern about privacy of this and would it leak or could anybody get it out, that they imposed some very strict rules that if you use it, you have to be using it only in the public interest, and you have to demonstrate that and get people to verify that. Like for me to get in, or get somebody to get in for me, I'm not a statistician, I need the approval of somebody from the Kapiti Council to say, yes, this looks like a worthwhile piece of research. But without that, I wouldn't jump the hurdle of being able to demonstrate that it was in the public interest that this work was done. And so for that reason, then the final point I wanted to add to that is the last government wasn't interested in any of this, so that nothing was done for 6 years. So you're now in a situation of something that was cobbled together quite a while ago, hasn't really been used much, and is still behind a thicket of gorse bushes to be able to get at it. But I can assure you from inquiries I've made that there is a lot of enthusiasm for improving this situation, and I would expect it probably will. On the 14 layers of management, well, there's the ambiguity as to whether we are each managing our own health and therefore one of the layers, but leaving that aside. Look, my experience of the health system over many years is that it is too bureaucratic, frankly. There is too much kludge between the decision making about how much money gets spent on what, how to regulate things, and what actually goes on in an operating theatre and a GP surgery. There's a lot of clutter above that. And the best explanation of that is history. What we've got is a health system that nobody designed. What you've got is leftovers from a lot of different designs that don't actually add up to a particularly coherent whole, in my view, and still don't. So I have no doubt that there's a lot of kludge that can come out of this. But also, politicians find sometimes it's useful to exaggerate slightly.
Really? I just want to close those questions off just with a comment. It's going to be an interesting comparison, but I use our housing needs assessment and the fact that we got involved in housing as a comparison, I guess, with regards to the work that's going on here. Should we be doing it? No. Should government be doing it? Yes. But we've got issues in our community, and we're taking the steps to try and address them with regards to getting some results. And we're putting some structures in place for pathways to get to those results. And the Health Advisory Group being a significant path, well, our main pathway, tied in with our council officers and how we're going to go about doing that. And we're on a journey, we're on a pathway, and I think we're on a journey of something a bit different because we want local advising central government about how to help local. And I dare say that's why there's a bit of focus on this work that's going on by government, because what we're hearing is that they want to see more empowerment of local, looking after local. The reality of the situation is that they might say a thing, but they always get in the way of making that happen. Another layer, so to speak. We would like to see layers taken away. And I dare say a bit of an experiment going on here, potentially. I don't know. I don't know what happens in other districts with regards to the relationship with local government and the health system, so to speak. I'd like to think that we are front-footing some very, very new approaches, which to me just makes sense. As you were saying, Nigel, just the stupidity factor in a lot of this is just mind-boggling. It would be farcical if there weren't so many zeros behind numbers involved, because we know what we could achieve if we had access to funding pathways or the ability to direct some of those funding pathways. We know what we could achieve with a fraction of the budgets that are just wasted in the pathways and getting there. So I'm very, very hopeful as part of our approach from that advocacy space that we can take the fantastic work that's being done here as part of your toolkit and part of the combined toolkit on how we are going to make things better for our community as such. Sorry, that's just my little blurb. But so Claire, it's Claire having a part of this as well?
Can I just introduce Claire, because she's much too modest, but Claire is actually chair of Alzheimer's New Zealand and brings a huge and vast knowledge to us with her work. So, Claire.
Thank you, Sandra. I do actually know quite a few people around the table, as my other role, or one of my other roles, is being chair of the Raumati South Residents Association. But I was a community pharmacist for 44 years, and so health is still my real passion and health advocacy. And as Sandra said, I'm chair of Alzheimer's New Zealand, and I've been involved with the Alzheimer's family for more than 12 years. And on a national level, we are very much involved in the advocacy space. So I'm going to give you a bit of a background about dementia and advocate something to you at the end. So, as you know, well, you probably don't know that dementia is not a normal part of ageing. It's actually an unusual part of ageing, but ageing is a risk factor. And it's one of the most significant health and social challenges facing New Zealand, although the government hasn't quite worked that out yet. It's a neurodegenerative disease that progresses over time and covers over 100 different conditions, so it's actually quite hard to diagnose and is definitely underdiagnosed by about 50%. So it fits in the mental health portfolio because it does affect the mental health, particularly of the people caring for people with dementia. It's a major cause of disability, so it fits in the disability sector as well, and because you lose your independence, it affects your memory, it affects cognitive abilities and behaviour. It's not just cognitive decline. There's actually behavioural issues and cognitive things like not understanding bank statements and complex things like that. So why is it important to you as the Social Sustainability Subcommittee? Because there's a lot that you can do to help people living with dementia and their care partners. So in KCDC, as you know, we have 15,400 based on the last census, not the last census, the one before, because we haven't got the most recent data. We've got 15,000 people over the age of 65, and at least 4% of those are expected to have dementia. Not as big a proportion of people as the mental health and younger people. So on here, I've shown that by 2050, which is where we're looking out to, it's going to be even more. So working on those proportions, there's at least 616 people living with dementia on the Kapiti Coast. But one diagnosis has a huge ripple effect because the people who are looking after the people living in the community, their care partners, the whānau, and the neighbours, there's often the neighbours who are doing a lot of looking after as well. And because of the underdiagnosis, we think there's at least 15% more than the percentage I just gave you. So there's a global action plan on public health responses to dementia, and it went from 2015 to 2025. And New Zealand has endorsed that, and this action plan asks the countries to have a national plan to support those people living with dementia to get the care and support that they need. And we do have a national Dementia Mati Wari action plan, and it was accepted by the last government. And they did the first stage, which set up a leadership and advisory group, which is a cross-sectional advisory group with people from all the people working in dementia. There's a lot of organisations working in the dementia space. So they funded that, and that's probably a very small amount, but they actually haven't funded the implementation of the action plan, which would help the system cope with the immense burden on the health system, as well as people living better. So as the District Council, you can help with the risk factors, because there are risk factors for dementia. And the risk factors, if these are addressed, can also, once the diagnosis has happened, you can actually help decrease the cognitive decline. So the risk factors are really important. And this also, of course, links in with the public health work that we've also talked about. So I've listed those there, including the age, but there's also smoking, physical inactivity, obesity, social isolation, excessive alcohol, and air pollution, and a lot of that links in with what they've talked about at the Older Persons Council as well. And then there's other ones as well that include low education, diabetes, high blood pressure, hearing loss, depression, and head injury, and there's probably not a lot that the council can actually do, but certainly in the public health space you can help with supporting people with dementia and decreasing the risk factors for it actually progressing. So within, it's been really interesting to hear all the discussions about what's happening, but within the planning and programs that the council can do, you can help with wellbeing, as we've talked about before. You can support drop-in coffee mornings, maybe an intergenerational space. You can help with physical activity. I wrote this before I heard all this stuff. So there's all these interconnectivities happening. So physical activity for older people, as well as alcohol and smoking bylaws, which I know that you're very interested in and progressing well. Another thing that you can do is actually do some work in the library space that hopefully wouldn't have too much of a cost effect, but there is work starting to happen, dementia in a dementia-friendly space. So you can have dementia-friendly books. There's actually books that have been rewritten by authors and by people who work in the dementia space, so they're easier for people with dementia to understand, that they can read in collaboration with their carers. You can also have puzzles and other things. The Palmerston North Library has just started this work and has had quite a lot of publicity just recently. And the Oamaru Library has actually gone another step and has become a dementia-friendly library. So maybe this council could be the first council in New Zealand to become a dementia-friendly council. It's actually a structured program that Alzheimer's New Zealand has done, so I will declare that conflict of interest, but it is actually there to help people living with dementia and their care partners. Oh, I've just lost the word. Okay, so maybe the beginning thing to do is to do an online free program that's 20 minutes that you can become a dementia friend, which then means that you then understand more about dementia and how you can help them. So if you're caring with someone with dementia and you're emotionally exhausted and so need all the help that you can get and all the interactions that you have with organisations to be as easy as possible. So if you've got a nice dementia-friendly council, that will, as a carer for a person with dementia or a person with dementia, would actually have a much better experience with the council. It'd probably improve efficiencies as well because the interactions will happen in a more timely manner. So that's my advocacy for you, is to look at becoming a dementia friend. As I said, that's free, and maybe looking at becoming a dementia-friendly organisation. And of course, everything that's dementia-friendly is also age-friendly as well, so it fits in that strategy as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you for that, Claire. I mean, it just hits the nail on the head with regards to the reasoning of having this interaction is to inform the table about different things, and just really, really appreciate the enriching of understanding in this space. Are there any questions at all? Nigel?
Yeah, just in regard to becoming a dementia-friendly council, is there a set of criteria that,
Yeah,
can
there's
we
a
get
set-
access to that?
Yes,
Yeah.
I can certainly I can talk to the staff and give you some details about that. But we have somebody who leads that work. There is a set of criteria. Yeah.
And there are no other councils in New Zealand in that space at the moment?
No.
Well, Kapiti, given our demographics,
Yeah.
it's something we should seriously look at, yeah.
I think there might be a small cost involved, but it's not a large cost, and I'm sure it would fit in a budget of staff development or council development or somewhere. Yeah.
And on your numbers and allowing a small amount for those who are unreported, there's probably about 600 people in Kapiti who have dementia themselves.
At this time, but it will increase.
It will increase,
Yes,
yeah. And
yeah.
plus the impact on,
On the
friends,
community.
family and the community
Yeah.
in general. So it's pretty significant.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
And maybe something to be flagged in relation to the Waikanae Library development that's going on at the moment as well. Considering the demographics in Waikanae, that could be maybe a first step in that space. So your head pop up then, Morag. Perhaps note that scenario would be much appreciated as such. Any other questions from anyone at all? No? Fantastic. Thank you very much for the presentation. Sandra, do you want to finish off? Might wrap it up with anything at all?
Thanks, Martin, and thanks for the opportunity. I mean, as chair, I'm just blown away when I see what the working groups are doing. They just have so much skill and so many fabulous people in their groups, and we are just so fortunate to have them. But it is good to come along and just let you know what we're doing and keep you in the loop. Building on what you were saying to Joanne earlier, finding a process by which we can bring forward the sort of suggestions that we've heard here today and just bring them to you so that they are noted would be really useful. And we're working with council staff on that, so that's in the wings.
And look, I noticed, we've got Victor, we've got Gina in the team. Victor's come on board now. And they're always at your meetings as well. So they do capture that stuff and bring it through as well. But again, this just offers another forum to elevate some of that thing, some of those discussions, and it can potentially be stuff that we as councillors can also follow up on.
And I'd just like to acknowledge the help and support we get from Gina and from Chris as well. It's truly wonderful, and they're doing so much to help. It's great.
Nice step up, nice triennium, isn't it, Sandra? No, glad that we've got you guys doing the work that you're doing. Thank you very much for the presentation today. We'll see you in 6 weeks' time. Look, I'm going to call a bit of a recess here at the moment with regard to 10-minute cup of tea and coffee. All the people that are here, you feel free to join us as such, and we'll sort of convene back here just after 11:30, and we'll quickly zip through the councillor stuff because we want to get, I might actually do the paper for the housing first.